Hey guys, it's Rachel with Be Healed Dog Training, and we're going to be looking at some counter conditioning today with Timmy here, and you can watch me give him a bath while I talk. So Timmy is here for 3 weeks, and he has a lot of problems with being handled. So he has a history of lots of growling, snarling, biting anytime that he is groomed, brushed, clipped, bathed, handling his collars, nails trimmed, you name it. If you're handling him in a way that makes him at all uncomfortable, he's been a big biter. He's bitten vets, groomers, his own owner several times. So that is the biggest thing that we've been working on with him. So what you're seeing here, first of all, he is muzzled up for safety's sake. That way, if he does make a bad decision, it's not going to hurt me. And it's also important that he's just comfortable wearing a muzzle because other people are going to have to muzzle him. So the first part of, working with the dog through this is setting the boundaries and making it very clear that that behavior will not be tolerated. And in a moment, you're going to see what a correction looks like, and I'll let you hear how neutral I am when I correct him. So I don't think you can hear in the video, he gives 2 low growls, and at the time that he does, I just calmly say no and then reach over and correct him with a remote collar. Now, first of all, remote collars, the ones that we use here, are waterproof, totally safe to use when he's wet. And so I'm going to just shut up here and let you listen for a moment and see how this goes. No. So that's all a correction looks like. I'm not angry at him. I'm not mad or frustrated or upset. It's a very calm but firm no. Reach over, correct with the remote. Your correction does not have to be immediate so long as you mark the behavior immediately. So he knows what the word no means. I mark it with no, I reach over, I correct, and then we move on. I'm not trying to absolutely rock his world in this case. He gave a low growl, but I do need for him to understand that that is not going to be tolerated. It's not acceptable behavior for when you're uncomfortable. And so that's the first part of counter conditioning and what a lot of people miss out on. So the next thing we're doing, and you've seen me do it several times in this video, is now he gets a food reward for any time he makes a good decision. And I know you can't hear it in the video, but I do have a clicker in my hand. And basically I'm just clicking as I wash, bathe, touch different areas of his body. He gets click and a reward so long as he is tolerating it well and he's not growling or being snarky or anything. So the big mistake that a lot of people make with counter conditioning is they skip the punishment, they go right to the reward, and they go, hey, I want my dog to make a positive association with being touched. So I'm going to touch him, and then I'm going to give him food. And if he's growling at that time, you're rewarding the growling. And so you first have to make it understood that the growling, the biting, whatever the dog is doing is not acceptable. Then you can start rewarding the dog for making good decisions. And that's how you're going to build the positive association. You will not create a negative association with the dog by correcting them. I'm going to repeat that. You will not make a negative association by correcting the dog. That negative association already exists. That's why the dog is growling, is biting. He already has a negative association with being touched. Why? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He actually has just kind of been like this his whole life. He's never had some horrible experience with being touched. He is just uncomfortable with it, and he has chosen to respond by biting and growling. And in the past, it has worked. It's gotten him out of being handled. He's actually had to be fully sedated anytime he needed to be groomed in the past. And that hasn't even been foolproof. Now, I've turned the sound on for this part so you can just hear when I'm clicking. And what I'm doing here is I'm just practicing touching his feet. Touch. Click any moment. And the more that I do this, the longer that I work with him, the longer I'm going to touch before I click. So you hear the click. Now, before I got to this point, there was a lot of very brief touch, click, touch, click, touch, click. That you don't see in this video, but we did that for many sessions before. Now I'm working on being able to handle his legs for longer periods of time, handling his feet. I want to click while I'm handling his feet. Touch, 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 click, and food. And we just do lots and lots and lots of repetition. So again, this video kind of cuts out, I'm not going to show you the 20 minutes we spent in the bath or whatever, but it's basically just tons of repetition of this. During his entire bath, he got 2, maybe 3 corrections total. Towel drying was a big trigger for him before. He used to attack the towel, growl, snarl, go ballistic. So, and you're actually seeing the entire towel drying session here. I do not believe he had to be corrected at all. I could be wrong. He may have gotten 1 correction, but I don't think he needed it. Again, we keep him muzzled up for safety's sake. He's getting click and reward, in this case, just because I put the towel on him, making that positive association with the towel. Does he have to love it? Nope, he doesn't. He just has to cope and tolerate, which is going to make it easier for him as well as me. It's not just about making my job easier. I want him more comfortable with this. I want him more relaxed. And I've seen videos of him being towel dried before. This is way more relaxed than in the past. So just lots of, every time I move to different parts of his body, and the video will skip a little bit so you can see this, when I move to different spots on his body, I click and reward for that too. So when I get under his belly, when I do his head, when I do his feet, I'm going to click and reward for that as well. And you can see from his facial expressions, he's not totally comfortable, but he's also not totally freaking out. And you see when I click, he's looking for that food. He's getting more excited about it. He's not wide-eyed here. He's not frantic, which is just awesome. Anyway, going back to what I was talking about before, he had to be completely sedated to be groomed, and you can imagine what a hardship that puts on himself and his owner. It's expensive. He wasn't able to be groomed as frequently as he really needed because that's a huge expense. It's a huge ordeal. There's always a risk associated with sedating a dog, and actually, it's not even, even sedation has its limits. He, at one point, actually had part of his eye nicked because even though he was sedated, he still woke up, leapt, he jumped and barked when the groomer was working near his eyes and the clipper nicked the corner of his eye. And obviously that was very upsetting for the groomer, and I'm sure for him and his owner, and he healed and he's okay, but he did have an injury that took a few weeks to heal from. So, again, even sedation has its limits. So doing this counter conditioning is so, so important. And this is something that's going to help him for the rest of his life. So it's taking a lot of work right now, but in the long run, this is going to be huge for him. And you can see how badly he needs to be groomed. So in a moment, you're going to see our very, very first work with the clippers. Going to show that too. So again, lots of just click for touch, food. You can use the daily kibble. For him, I'm actually using some really high value treats just because this is such a stressful thing for him. And he really just didn't have a lot of food drive, even with training with his daily food every day. He had a lot more drive with these special little meaty treats. Anyway, we're about to show the clipping here, and I do want to say that what I started with, this is not the very, very first session with the clippers, although this is the very first time that I actually cut hair with the clippers. So there was 1 or 2 other sessions before this where you can see the clippers are not turned on right now. I still have the sound on so you can hear some of the clicking when I click and reward. I'm just touching him with the clippers as they're off, click and reward. And the more that I work with this, the longer I'm going to touch with those clippers before clicking. When I first did this, it was like immediate touch, click, reward, touch, click, reward. Now I'm, imitating what I'm going to be doing as I trim him. So then I'm going to turn the clippers on here, and I'm going to just let it run behind him and make some noise. And I'm also touching him with my hand and not the clippers first. So the clippers are running, but when they start cutting hair, they make a different sound. So again, I'm working up to that gradually. I start by my hand running along him so he can kind of feel the vibrations, but he's not also getting that sound and sensation of the actual clippers trimming him. And then now I'm going to switch to actually trimming him. So again, a little bit different sensation here. I'm having to be pretty careful because he was a little bit matted. Later, I actually had to take that guard off and just shave him down really close because he was pretty matted from not being able to do regular grooming. So all of this work, it's not just about being able to give him a haircut. This is going to be important for his daily brushing, daily grooming, to keep him from getting so matted. He won't have to get such short haircuts in the future because A, he'll be more comfortable with this, and they won't have to go super short to make the haircut last longer. And B, because he won't be all matted up because his owners will be able to brush him on a regular basis and take care of him. So anyway, we continued on from this point and he got a full haircut, but just wanted to put this video together to show you kind of what the counter conditioning process looks like. So that's Timmy. Remember, always start with your corrections for the unwanted behavior, and then you get tons and tons and tons of opportunities to reward the good behavior afterwards and make that positive association.